What is going on, FA Nation? My name is Justin Fensterman, along with Jon Impemba, and this is the DFS NBA live stream here on fantasyalarm.com. 11 games, a monster slate. Jon, what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Monster slate is right. We have obviously some injury news that we're waiting to hear on as well that could alter some of the 10 p.m. games, maybe even some of the early games as well with Devontae Graham. And the best part about being live right now, Fence, is this is when the injury news starts rolling in. Again, all day today, we've been thinking we're waiting on the Magic and their injury information, and now Marvin Bagley is questionable all of a sudden right as we jump off. So, I mean, like, hey, who knows what's going to come the rest of the night.
Sucks, by the way.
Roster locks at 7 o'clock, so a lot more injury news to break through.
And Bagley had a double-double last time he played Orlando. It was a great matchup and a great price point. Man, that frustrates me. Mm-hmm. Let's go over some of the other injury news. Way to piss me off, Jon Impemba. Not far from the norm.
I'm just here to deliver the information, Fence.
Well, yeah, you're here to frustrate me and everybody else. He had a double-double last game. Now we can't really trust him at this time. We'll give you the most updated news. As of right now, though, Anthony Davis still questionable with the Achilles. Bradley Beal is resting. He's out. Paul George is out. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is still out. Drew Holiday is still out. Mike Conley dealing with the hamstring injury. He is out. D'Angelo Russell is still out. Kemba Walker's resting. He is out. Mason Plumlee is out with an elbow injury. Devontae Graham, as Jon mentioned, is still questionable. Evan Fournier, questionable with his back. Brandon Clark is out for the Grizz. Wendell Carter Jr. was listed as doubtful, but he will not play in this game. LaMarcus Aldridge is still out for the Spurs. Cole Anthony, questionable for the Magic. Otto Porter Jr. is still out. Maledon still out. Frank Mason is out, another Orlando injury. D'Anthony Melton is out. Gary Harris is out. Desmond Bane is also out for personal reason. Isaiah Roby is questionable with the foot injury. Rajon Rondo out with a back injury. And then here's the big one here. Blake Griffin, will he be out? We don't know at this point. According to the schedule, he kind of should be, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, Blake hasn't played a back-to-back yet this season. They gave us some of that injury news earlier on Detroit, and Blake wasn't part of it, so we'll have to wait and see exactly if any updates end up coming that way.
Yep, so what we'll do is as we're going position by position when reviewing James Grande's DFS NBA playbook on fantasyalarm.com, any injury news that comes our way, we will break through and make sure that you are fully up to date. Then you get in the chat, and that is how you're going to win to start the weekend. So without further ado, Jon, let's start at that point guard spot because we're paying up when, of course, you got guys like Luka, Westbrook, Lillard. A lot of the stat stuffers, man. So that's good in a way because it gives us a little bit of variance. So that means the ownership should be a little bit more in our favor. But what player stands out to you in the high-priced point guard realm?
Yeah, I mean, listen, obviously without Bradley Beal, Russell Westbrook at $9,000 feels just like an absolute home run. I think on almost any other slate. You know, my problem tonight is that it's against a Knicks team that plays very slow. They have the lowest game total on the board, and would end up fading better players in better matchups. You know, spending up against Luka against New Orleans has been going up against New Orleans as point guards has been a very favorable matchup. You have Trae Young against a Spurs team that ranks last in DVP against opposing point guards. Dame up against Cleveland is right there. So you're wearing it. Yep, you're wearing the jersey. If I'm picking one, I'm going to go Luka here tonight. I'm going to play the chalk. I just think this is a great spot for him to go off. High game total, close spread. Trae Young's my close number 2, though, and I'd probably put Lillard third.
Right, I'm with you there. And being that it's going to be a close game between the Pels and the Mavs, you got to like that with Luka. And where's the likelihood of a blowout happening? Well, when it comes to Portland-Cleveland, it doesn't excite me as much of a high-scoring affair as Dallas and New Orleans, so I'm with you there. Now, moving down, when it comes to the value tier, where do we go from there? Because we've got some players that are out. I mean, we talked about Boston when you're rocking the Celtics swag. So with that, man, why don't you tell us, Mr. Pritchard, he was banged up, now been back for, the last couple of weeks. Yeah. No Kemba, no Marcus Smart still. What are your expectations going up against this pathetic Detroit backcourt, at least defensively?
Yeah, I think there's just a good opportunity for him to probably enter the starting lineup. I know Jeff Teague had been a DNP lately, with Pritchard and Kemba back. Is Boston going to then Teague into the starting lineup. And even if that ends up being the case, Pritchard still should see the majority of the minutes. He was seeing the majority of the minutes at the guard spot when Kemba was out to begin the year. Played 29 minutes last night against Toronto, had 20 actual points, 29 fantasy points. It's a good spot for him against Detroit. I think the minutes are going to be there, and he's been effective shooting the ball, and he's been okay with distributing as well. So I'm fine spending down on Pritchard. There's a few obvious spend downs on tonight's slate, and Pritchard's one of them.
I gotta ask you this question, man, because he's not in the playbook. But I gotta ask you about Sacramento, man. We've been talking all day, you and I, back and forth. You know that I'm very much in on Sacramento. I was just freaking out about Bagley. I was in on him as well, not anymore. But the Sacramento guards, I absolutely love. And I just don't think that this Kings team is really that good that they're going to be able to blow the Magic out. Do you think differently? Because I feel like we have to attack Orlando. I don't care who's in or out.
Yeah, I mean, you can attack Orlando. That's fine. It's more so we're looking at the Vegas odds, and it was a 9-point spread. And, Orlando's on the second night of a back-to-back. They lost their third guard yesterday, and they're getting Michael Carter-Williams back. They may get Cole Anthony back. They may get Evan Fournier back. If those guys return, then I'm with you. I think there's an opportunity where Orlando could probably play this game a little close. But if they're down again and they're starting, Terrence Ross is like their only healthy shooter, and they're sticking, Chuma out there and, Dwayne Bacon and that group, like that's a tough go. Sacramento is very good. Sacramento is very talented. They have a lot of talented players on their team tonight. So, I mean, Vucevic is still an elite play, but I worry about how close this game's going to stay. And Vegas is sort of in that same camp. You have an 11-game slate today. There's a game total with a 9-point spread. Like, you don't really need to go there. And I understand the matchup is great, but, are you then risking spending $9,000 or so on De'Aaron Fox and he only plays 28 minutes because it's a blowout? Like, this isn't a slate where I feel like I need to take that risk. To be different, sure, go ahead. Put it in a contrarian if you're building a couple of lineups and throw them out there. But I'm just wary, given the cost of a guy like Fox, where, you can play someone that's just below him in a LaMelo Ball for cheaper. And he's in a better matchup against Minnesota. That game is more than likely staying close. Why do you have to risk the Fox play? So I'm 100% in agreement that it's a great matchup in terms of DVP and everything like that, but I just worry that it gets out of hand.
No, and I get that. And that you have to decide. You guys are going to have to pick a lane where you stand. I think, and with everything John explained, it seems like it's going to veer more towards a potential blowout, but we still have to realize who's in and out for the Orlando side. Again, Sacramento defensively, I am not in on them. Some of those Orlando guys, if they are out, then someone you and I have been talking about, John, Dwayne Bacon. That's someone that you got to look at. He's been scoring a little bit more. But if you don't want to spend up on De'Aaron Fox, maybe you spend a little cheaper and you get point guard Donnie, who's been helping on those dimes, dropping those dimes lately, now going up against Milwaukee. Also was in my starting 5 today, so on the same page as Mr. Grande, who wrote the playbook. Are you going to pay for Donovan Mitchell tonight?
Yeah, of course. I mean, listen, this is exactly what we have talked about now for a while, is that when Mike Conley's out and you get Donovan Mitchell in the point guard spot, then you're going to go ahead and get that elite upside, production out of him. And that's what we've got now in the last handful of games. He's stepped in for Conley against Boston, 62 fantasy points, against the Pacers the game before that, 56. I mean, 20 assists in the last 2 games. He is a guy that when the ball's in his hand, he's super effective. And to me, this is a good matchup. It's going to go back and forth. Second highest game total on the board. It's a close point spread. And he had 52 fantasy points against Milwaukee in their first meeting this season, and that was with Conley. So sign me up for Donnie Mitch here tonight.
Yes, again, it's not going to be all Jordan Clarkson bringing up the ball. It's going to be a lot more Donovan Mitchell, as we've been seeing. And with the assist going up like this, I mean, I don't know how you can really pick someone else. I know it's kind of chalky, but, when I was making the starting 5 video on fantasyalarm.com, I mean, DeMar DeRozan, who's also in James' playbook, he was also in there too. But when I took a look at it, I was just like, man, Donovan Mitchell just seems to be primed in that spot. You can get to Milwaukee through their guards, especially if they're not at full strength. And I just feel like tonight, it's a good spot, a good price point. And with that, if we're not going to want to spend up that much, who are you looking at when it comes to value? Are you looking at a Colin Sexton? Are you going down in that same Utah-Milwaukee matchup to a little Dante DiVincenzo, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I think DDV makes a lot of sense here with no Drew Holiday. We've seen him be productive of late. And this is a matchup, again, that we're expecting to be back and forth, and the ownership looks pretty low on him. I think he's fine. I'm big into Lou Williams today. I know he's a little bit more expensive over on FanDuel at 65, but on DraftKings, he's a core play for me. No Paul George. We've seen the minutes now near 30 the last couple of games, and we're getting that elite scoring out of him that we saw, in years prior. Earlier this year he was struggling, but now they're using him as that true second scoring option for them. I'm big on Lou Williams as well as a spend down spot. DraftKings, again, more appealing because of the price. Over on FanDuel, though, there's that price bump. Fancy, more breaking news. PJ Washington just ruled out health protocol.
No. So let's talk about that for a second.
This is the third player now today for Charlotte, health protocol.
The Martins have been ruled out earlier. Now PJ Washington. So let me ask you this, John. As the onion is starting to peel over a little bit, do we just punt on this team immediately?
Here's our fortunate thing, Fensty, is that it's the 7 o'clock game. So we're going to get all of the information before this slate locks. And we're going to know who's in, who's out, if this game's even going to be played. However, someone that we were high on, and we'll briefly transition to small forward here, was Miles Bridges. We liked him if Devontae Graham was going to be out. But now with PJ Washington out, we may see Graham move into that starting line. I mean, we may see Bridges move into the starting lineup like he was when Washington was out a few games ago. And if Graham is out even more, Malik Monk now becomes more of a play because they're down in those guard positions. Zeller, they don't have anybody to move into the center spot for them now. Zeller's going to see more minutes than he was seeing lately because they were moving Washington into that 5 spot when Bridges was on the floor with them. Biyombo now comes off the bench, is probably going to have a little bit of more of a role. Not that I'm interested in Biyombo, but you think about the rotation now for them. I think it was Caleb Martin was playing like 20 to 25 minutes off the bench. Right. He's gone. PJ Washington was starting playing 30 minutes. He's gone. Devontae Graham may not play. So the rotation gets tighter, and I think this boosts the value for everybody. As we've seen with teams who are stuck with 8 or 9 guys, all of their starters end up playing almost 40 minutes.
So does this mean LaMelo Ball and Rozier become must plays all of a sudden?
I mean, I don't know. So must plays are always sort of like I don't love using the word must play. They were already great plays. They were going up against Minnesota. If Graham was out, they were going to play the 30 to 35 minutes as it was. But now if they don't even have real subs for them, Malik Monk is the only rotational guard and everything else, there's no Martins there anymore to fill in, then yeah, I think this is going to help play those guys maybe now a floor of 35 minutes tonight. Same with someone like Gordon Hayward and Miles Bridges might end up playing more to 30 to 35 minutes. So I'm in 100%. I think this is, unless we get more news and maybe this game gets banged out or something like that because of COVID, I'm interested.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking to see whether or not Devontae Graham playing could impact the status of this game because you need 8 to be active. Right. And right now, from what I'm seeing, they at least have, without Graham involved, they have Ball, Hayward, Rozier, Zeller, Bridges. They don't have Washington anymore. They have Monk still, Biyombo. They're going to be close, John.
Yeah, they can't really lose. They can't afford to lose. Yeah, they can't afford to lose anybody else really at this point.
Oh man! All right, so this is again for all.
But at least it's the 7 o'clock game, and we'll know. So.
Right. Yeah, this is getting to be a little bit of a mess here. So we'll continue staying on the breaking news regarding Charlotte and whether.
So they recalled Jalen McDaniels today.
Okay.
Because they got the COVID news from the Martins. So Jalen McDaniels, not saying he's a guy that's going to play, but he's a body that's going to count, right?
Okay, so that brings them, if Graham is active, that should bring them up to 9.
Right.
If Graham is active.
Right.
They can't have anybody else ruled out because of contact tracing.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, they're stuck. If Graham doesn't play, this game's not going to go. All right, we will continue keeping you up to date with any other breaking news that happens, especially with this situation. And like John mentioned at the start, that's what makes this so much fun right now with all the crazy news, especially this year going on. Let's move on to small forward, get a little organization back in this stream. LeBron James is there. Kawhi Leonard is there as well. I mean, when it comes to between the two, you're going to be spending a pretty penny on both of them. Who would you rather pay for? I mean, no Paul George. I mean, we don't know the status of Anthony Davis. So as we're speaking, is the decision kind of made for us in Kawhi?
I think it's an interesting one. I mean, listen, Kawhi's in a great spot here against Chicago as well. And if you need the savings, you can definitely go ahead and take the $500 on FanDuel and play Kawhi. LeBron's really been good whether or not AD is played anyways. We just like LeBron ceiling a little bit more if AD is out. So I'm still not against fading playing LeBron James with the uncertainty of Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis, for me, more impacts Dennis Schroeder, more impacts Kyle Kuzma. Because if he's out, the usage rate for those guys increase. But I'm still fine with going with LeBron here if you're really strong behind him. But again, there's no Paul George. This is the Chicago Bulls. Kawhi can just as easily give you 60 as LeBron can. So I'm fine going either way. I don't really have a strong lean. Unless Anthony Davis is out, I would lean more towards LeBron James.
I mean, moving down, Gordon Hayward, we were just talking about Charlotte. I mean, his price point in the mid 7K range.
Yeah.
He becomes someone that you have to really consider part of your core. And this is a situation as well where you have Chris Middleton, who's in a good spot too. But when I'm looking between the two, I mean, at this point, with what we know with the Charlotte roster, you have to go with Hayward, right? All these guys are going to have to play extended minutes.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing with them, right? Like, Hayward is already playing a lot of minutes. It's more so like what kind of usage ends up being spread around without Washington. Washington wasn't necessarily a huge scorer in that sense, but like maybe some more rebounds become available because they don't have him floating around the paint, and Hayward could go ahead and play in that position. They could end up starting Hayward, at the 4 tonight. If they want to keep Bridges in that 6-man role, they could run Monk out there in the starting lineup tonight and go 3 guards, which we've seen them do with Ball, Rozier, and Graham when he was healthy at times this year. So it's interesting. I actually really like Chris Middleton here. No Drew Holiday for the last 2 games, and in those last 2 games, 11 assists and 12 assists for Chris Middleton. He's been playing point guard essentially for them since Drew Holiday went down. Again, high-scoring game total, close spread, $8,000 for a guy that's giving you 63 fantasy points a couple nights ago. Yeah, I'm buying in here on Middleton. I love them both. They're great mid-tier plays. There's a lot of top-end talent on this slate, but there's also a lot of guys in this, like, 7 to 7,500, 8K, 8,500 range. You can make probably a really nice, fair and balanced lineup, too, with guys that can all have 50-plus fantasy point ceilings.
So this is what happens when we have a nice, big, juicy slate. I will say it's about Middleton as well. We saw this with the assists last year and in previous years from him. Look for those players like Middleton. You know that he's going to be at the top of the key. That's his spot. That's his sweet spot. Look for those players that are always set up there and are regularly shooting from there because they're going to have the best court vision of the entire floor. So that's going to result in assists because if someone has a successful backdoor cut, kind of like what we saw with Jokic the other night, boom, quick no-look pass right down the center. That's going to work every single time. And to be at the top of the key and have all of those peripherals right there with your vision, that's just why you need to focus and watch for those top of the key plays. Any other value guys you like from the small forward spot?
I think there's a lot of – we talked about Bridges already. He is great. I like Joe Ingles on FanDuel. He's $4,900. Moving into that starting lineup, playing really well without Conley. Danilo Gallinari is playing 30 minutes a night right now. Got the minutes restriction bumped up for him. He's just 4,100 and 4,800. The other night, he didn't hit his shots. He was 2 for 12. Is that always going to happen? No, probably not. He's going to be more of an efficient shooter. It's a good spot for him against San Antonio tonight. And then we have the forwards for Washington. Again, no Bradley Beal. They're starting Garrison Matthews tonight. We like Denny Avdija off the bench. And then Rui Hachimura has been really solid without Beal on the floor this year as well. So I think all 3 of those Wizards guys could be in play here at times.
Yes, and the way to attack the Knicks this year, where we were talking about Westbrook before, but really where to attack them, their front court. It's exposed. Mitchell Robinson is very, very raw, and you can get by him. So don't forget that when you're attacking the Knicks. It's not the same as in previous years. Previous years, we only attacked their guards, and that was it. It was the biggest low-hanging fruit ever. Maybe not the biggest. That's more Charlotte's front court. But this year, it's different. This year, we have to attack their front court. So things change as seasons change as well. So let's move on to that power forward spot here as we await for more news regarding who's going to be suiting up for Charlotte and whether or not they're going to be able to make it to this game at 7 p.m. Eastern. Giannis, he's right there. However, Julius Randle, because the Washington side of things, their front court is kind of trash. No disrespect to Hachimura. He's not stopping Julius Randle in the post. None of their options are.
Yeah.
So where are you thinking when it comes to the power forward spot?
Yeah, Randle's great for cash. I love Giannis tonight. There's enough value on the slate that you can get Giannis plus Luka, Giannis plus LeBron, Giannis plus Towns if you want. We'll talk about center in a second. But we love Towns a lot tonight as well, assuming that game now even plays. So yeah, I'm big on Giannis. He had 50 fantasy points. He had like 35 actual against Utah earlier this year. No Drew Holiday. He's averaging, I think it's like over 1.6 fantasy points per minute with Holiday off the floor. So, yeah, totally 100% worth the spend up for me. I would go there. Randall for me, again, more of a cash game option. I'm big on John Collins tonight. I think there's low ownership there. He's really playing well of late. He fits in nicely into that, again, that $7,000 to $8,000 tier tonight with a guy that has 50 fantasy point upside. So I'm big fan of his tonight. And then, of course,
people don't trust him, man. These ownership numbers in this matchup are garbage. It's what 4.5% on DraftKings for John Collins. When I was looking at this, look, John Collins isn't the most fun player. I thought he was going to be a lot more fun from the production side. And I'm not just taking this from what he did against Dallas. However, I will say this, when it comes to effectiveness of the front court, not so far off when it comes to Dallas and San Antonio. So with San Antonio dealing with their own injuries, remember, no Aldridge, I'm thinking John Collins is fine for everything you just said. And even though he's more of a boring type of player, he has been scoring a lot more. A guy that averages 18.5 points. He's eclipsed that a lot lately, not just in the Dallas games, John. So I'm very in on him, and I think he's going to be very sneaky.
Yeah, I'm agree with you. Like I said, it's a great matchup. People, I don't think necessarily are going to be looking at that game too much.
No, I think it's going to be focused on Miles Bridges and his recent double-doubles now.
Right, exactly. So I'm with you there. I think people will be looking to spend down. DraftKings, where Bridges has that power forward eligibility. Kyle Kuzma has that power forward eligibility. People are going to be looking in that direction to save money. They're going to be spending up. So I think the mid-tier gets lost.
Let's go down to the center spot, the final position that we're going to be previewing here as we continue waiting for the news regarding the Charlotte Hornets. If you are just watching us for the first minute or so now, here's what we're dealing with. The Hornets having some players ruled out. The Martins and P.J. Washington ruled out for COVID health protocol reasons. So we're watching to see if anybody else is going to get ruled out. But everyone, as John mentioned before, is going to be getting a bump, especially in this matchup versus Minnesota. It's just so beautiful. And what can you do when you can run cheap stacks? You run it back with Karl Anthony Towns potentially, as long as the game plays. 9,300 on DraftKings. You can't ask for a better price point.
Yeah, I mean it's too cheap on DraftKings, and we only like a few centers here. Really, or at least I only really like a few centers. There's an obvious play here tonight on DraftKings with Mason Plumlee ruled out. You're going to play Isaiah Stewart. He's $3,100. He's $100 above mid. So you're going to pair him up there. FanDuel is where the decision-making comes in because he's a power forward on FanDuel. So you can slide him in and then spend up at center. So, we don't like Nikola Jokic. We say we always like Nikola Jokic, but 12.5 point spread in that game, likely a blowout. Then you look at the next tier here, and there's Towns. There's Vucevic, who I know that you love a lot. And I like Valanciunas. And I think those are the three guys that you're going to be deciding between on FanDuel tonight at the very least. And on DraftKings, you play Stewart plus another guy or just play Stewart. There's no reason not to play him. over 30 fantasy points last night. He's going to be in for another 30-plus minutes against a bad Boston front court. So the answer is pretty clear to me.
Yeah, when I was making the starting five before, I had originally penciled in Rudy Gobert. And I was thinking, okay, it's fine. But, Giannis, I'm sure, is going to be focused on him, which is why, by the way, that train of thought immediately made me pivot my shooting guard to Donovan Mitchell in that starting five, taking Rudy Gobert out of it. And that's why when you got Towns there, I mean, he's going to play 30-plus minutes. It's Charlotte. And now it's a real limited Charlotte. It's perfect, man. Again, I mostly play on DraftKings. I don't know how I make another decision. I know Stewart is very, very cheap. But come on, man. We know what we're getting from Towns in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. You know what you're getting from Towns. But like I said, you can play them both. I think if you don't play Stewart on DraftKings tonight, I think you're doing yourself a disservice just purely from the fact that he's mid-price. He's a mid-price starter that's going to play 30 minutes. Even if he gives you 15 fantasy points, that's 5x. That's what we want. So you want that ability to save the money and spend up elsewhere. So DraftKings Stewart's about as big of a lock as there has to be. FanDuel, again, he plays power forward on FanDuel. You have to play two. Lock him in. He's $100 above mid price there too, and go play Towns, go play Valanciunas, go play Vucevic at the center spot.
So let's go back to Sacramento for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Are you looking at anyone from Sacramento in this game?
No, not really. I mean, like I said, it's more so. There's too many other games in the slate for me to really want to play a game where a team's missing most of their roster, playing on the second night of a back-to-back on the road. It's, against one of the better teams. Like, Sacramento is on, like a 4 or 5 game win streak. Like, they're beating good teams. I understand their defense is trash. I'm 100% in agreement with you on that. I mean, that's a reason for why they'll stay close. But I don't want to, on an 11-game slate, be, risking a team that I think is far superior at this moment, blowing out that other team and then not getting full minutes here. So for me, I have no interest on this game on the Sacramento side. I could have some interest on the Orlando side. If we find out that there's no minutes limit on Michael Carter-Williams tonight, right? They don't have a point guard, assuming Cole Anthony and Evan Fournier are ruled out. They're again another team limited to 10 players. We've seen Terrence Ross last night had a huge game. James Ennis has been playing really well. Chuma has been playing real. So I could see the Orlando side and some of their wing players, but I don't think you need to go Rashawn Holmes, even though there's no Bagley tonight. Or potentially no Bagley. I don't. Harrison Barnes, Buddy Hield, they're all great plays, and the matchup against Orlando is fine. I just worry about the blowout, and on a slate like this, it's not something I need to risk.
I'm cool with Buddy Hield. If you don't want to pay up for
Devontae Graham active.
I was just about to say, I'm looking at that right now. So it's looking like that shows me right there. Even if he doesn't play necessarily, he's suiting up. That's a good sign that
it says he's available to play. So I imagine
they just need the bodies. I don't want people to think, oh, he's good to go. He might not get a single minute.
No, I think he's good to go. It's just a groin. I would assume he's good.
Just a groin? Have you ever hurt your groin before?
Yeah, but he's been questionable for the last 4 games. I think he's good to go.
Okay, you don't think it's a pressure?
Well, what will be the telltale sign in the starting lineup?
Yes.
If he's not in the starting lineup, then I'll agree with you. But if he's in the starting lineup, I assume he's just going to play his minutes.
Yeah, we're going to have to see, but that is a good sign that this game is going to be good, meaning Towns in a great spot. In the starting five, I put Vucevic also in a good spot. John and I have very different thoughts regarding this game. John is more on it's going to be a blowout side. I don't hate on him. I think it's got a chance to still be close. And even if it's not Vucevic with a whole bunch of nothing, and I'm still willing to pay. John, anything else that we need to know going into this slate, man? And we've had some big breaking news. I mean, outside of that, the Wolves released their lineups. I mean, Ricky Rubio is someone that you and I were kicking around before. That's someone that no one's going to be on, I feel.
Yeah, I like Rubio tonight. Again, he's the scoring. He's not going to score like he used to, but the assists have still been there. The steals have been nice. He's rebounding a little bit. Having Towns back, I think, means the world really to his value. They're just going to dump it in to him over and over again. So And I think not having PJ Washington actually is benefiting Towns as well. Like Washington is more of a shot blocker than Zeller is. So like having Zeller now having to play 30 minutes, 35 minutes is going to be better for Towns as well.
Yeah, hopefully Towns spends 80% of his time in the post tonight. That would be very, very smart. He'll have a lot of success that way. Or he can just, chalk up about 5-10 threes, and then he doesn't hit the points, and then we all are sad at the end of the night. At JImpemba777 is Jon Impemba on Twitter. I'm at FenceD Sports. Get in the chat. Get your lineup set. 11-game slate. The Hornets situation seems to be in a good spot right now for this game. Get in to win. Always dominate. Have an awesome weekend.